We'll call to order the Lincoln City Council regular meeting. Today is Thursday, February 6th, 2025, and it is 6 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Davis.
Here.
Councilwoman Livingston.
Here.
Councilwoman Artavia.
Here.
Councilman Shoemaker.
Here.
Mayor Burberry.
Here. Number 5 on our agenda is the agenda approval. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve our agenda.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Davis,
I'll second.
a second by Bjornstad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And discussion. I would like to amend the agenda to include further insurance discussion as item number 10 and to remove item 11, the engineer report, as they are unable to attend this evening.
Do you need another motion to accept that? I'll make a motion to accept the amended agenda approval.
Motion by Councilwoman Davis,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Shoemaker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and so moved. Okay, this is the time for public comment. Anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment, please come to the podium, state your name. Second call for public comment. And third and final call. Seeing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda tonight, January 23rd, 2025, meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda 12325 minutes.
We have a first by Councilwoman Davis. Is there a second?
I'll make a motion to second that.
Second by Councilwoman Artavia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion, and so moved. Number 8, under old business. Attorney Rockenby, are you online? The auditor, do we have anyone on?
Oh, it looks like you had to.
There he is.
You should be able to.
Yeah, he's on the other one. There we go.
Can you hear us? Okay, he's muted still.
You're muted, so we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Good evening.
Good evening. So we are at the point, sir, of the Capital Electric franchise agreement first reading.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late getting logged in. I was having some technical issues. So you should have in front of you the first reading for the Capital Electric franchise. It's been approved by Capital Electric's council. And so a motion to approve is in order.
I made a motion to approve the maintenance agreement and franchise agreement first reading.
Okay, this would just be the franchise agreement, correct? And not the
That's-
maintenance?
Not the maintenance agreement. Nope, I'm still working on that. This is just the territory for the franchise for Capital Electric to provide electrical services within the city of Lincoln.
I'll recommend motion then to approve the franchise agreement for first reading.
We have a first by Councilman Bjornstad. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Councilwoman Davis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved. Next on. Oh, I'm sorry, roll call vote, please. Thank you.
Bernstein,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Archibald.
Yes.
Landis.
Yes.
So the maintenance agreement will be next meeting, Monty?
Yeah, I'm still working on that. I wanted to take a look at some agreements from some other municipalities. I still have some work to do on that. So yeah, I hope to have that at the next meeting. I need to finish my review. Then Greg needs to look at it. Then we need to run it by Capital Electric's council. But right now I'm the bottleneck. I did work on it this week. But like I said, I want to review some additional form agreements on some of the language.
Okay, thank you, Monty.
And now, can we have public hearing and second reading combined next week or at the next meeting on the 21st, 20th?
I'm sorry, Mayor.
I have a first reading.
The project.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I didn't quite understand
Okay,
what you asked.
So the 20th would be the second reading of the franchise agreement. Do we need a public hearing on that, or is it just simply a vote and we can sign?
Just need to have a second reading and a vote. Does it not need a public hearing under Lincoln's code? Some municipal codes have a requirement for franchise agreements to be presented to the citizens through a public hearing, but Lincoln's code does not have that provision.
Thank you.
I have some questions about the maintenance agreement, just to help my general understanding of it and make sure myself and councilor understand it. Full, is that okay? So this agreement is, so I remember asking questions last meeting, and the developers build light bulbs, and then the city of Lincoln take ownership of the light bulbs, correct? And this maintenance agreement states that we'll pay Capital Electric $3 per light pole to maintain the light poles. We supply the material, pay for the material. So the city of Lincoln is owning this asset, the light pole, that is generating revenue for Capital Electric by light pole using electricity. And not only do we have to pay for the service to maintain this asset, we also have to pay for the materials to maintain this asset that's generating revenue for another company. It seems like an odd deal to me.
We have historically, I believe it's common practice for us to be charged by pole. I guess that's the way it's been since. As long as I.
One question I would propose for capital is to take the deal and turn it around and say, well, as they continue to grow with the city of Lincoln, as the ordinance or potential ordinance states, what if they took ownership of the asset light pole? They paid for the materials to repair the light pole and paid the city of Lincoln $3 a light pole for us to do the service work. Then the city of Lincoln would just outsource the service work. Take the deal, completely turn it around.
There would have to be an attorney talking to Capital Electric and board, right? You would go that way, but
Well, regardless, if we paid Capital Electric or another organization, we don't have the equipment, the employees, the know-how. So
Well, if you were to take this service agreement, maintenance agreement, if Capital Electric took ownership of the light poles from the developer, then they would be in our position in this agreement, pay us $3 a light pole. And then they would supply the material that when needed to repair the light pole. We wouldn't need to buy or invest in assets to do the maintenance work. We could contract it out, but we would have a steady income, a revenue stream with $3 a light pole, and as we grow, that revenue stream would increase. So it seems like if it's a good deal for capital, this, what if we turn it around and say, okay, well, would you accept this deal if you were put in that position? And I think the city of Lincoln having another revenue stream with a $3 light pole and then contracting out service work as needed was a continuous revenue stream. If we look at it that way. Instead of paying for the material and service work to fix an asset that we own that generates revenue for somebody else.
I would say that that would be a conversation we shouldn't have without capital here. I've never heard of anything like that. Attorney Roggenby, have you any guidance to that? I guess they're our electric company.
They do make a lot of money with I should say that they make revenue with our city, with us having a
They are
contract between each
providing
other.
us a service.
No,
But they are providing us a service without them, I guess.
right.
It's a symbiotic relationship. It takes both of us.
Well, okay, I would think that would be a conversation for them when they come. Unless you have some insight.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I mean, I think that maybe the way to think about this is that as part of the public safety and building out the city wants to have lighted streets, which is a service for the residents of the city. Capital Electric is in the business of providing electricity. So I think that the way that I would think about it is that Capital Electric provides an electrical service to assist the city in completing, providing a service to the residents. And for that, they charge an electric fee. What we're talking about is I guess kind of in a way like a warranty on your car that Capital Electric we're prepaying Capital Electric to have the equipment and the specialized skill and the labor to keep the streetlights operational, where we provide or pay for the parts. Whether that's a good deal or a bad deal for the city, I guess, is a policy question for the council. But I think we'd be looking at a completely different type of agreement. I mean, the city owns the vast majority of these light poles and all the fixtures now. So if we were somehow going to turn that on its head, it becomes a lot more complicated. So, what I would suggest is let's let me and Greg and work with the Public Works Department. Let's get the proposal the way that Capital Electric has provided it. Let's get it in front of the council, and then the council can have a conversation about kind of what it wants to do and what direction it wants to give us.
Okay, thank you.
If you come up to the podium, thank you. Just state your name.
Name's Elizabeth Fleming. I just live outside of Lincoln and I have Capital Electric. So I have a yard light and I have to pay on my electric bill an $8 a month fee. That includes them maintaining my light. So if a light bulb goes out or something goes wrong with it, they come and maintain it. I still have to pay the electricity that goes through it, but I pay $8 per month, so they may be giving us a discount at $3 per pole. I'm not sure. But but when they do come out to work on it, they do pay for like replacing the light and the maintenance for doing it. So there's might be a happy medium where we can get by with just not paying the $3. You know what I mean, per pole, and make it an even if they would maintain it and replace the parts. Or if you pay the $3 and they pay for the parts. You know what I mean?
And then
Like
they
it
just,
could be beneficial if you were to maybe work into it some other different way. Does that make sense? Or did I
because
confuse-
ultimately then it would just be swept back into a
Be a
bill
wash, right, be a wash, yeah.
another way.
So as an individual homeowner, I pay for my pole too.
Yeah.
So it must be part of their system, but it's sure worth looking into.
I can honestly say you just completely confused me.
Thank you, Beth, that's a good point.
And I think regardless of whether you go with an MD. Capital Electric, but another utility, you know, you're gonna be paying, but we'll look into it and
Great questions for sure.
uh. I will be talking to Paul Fitter tomorrow morning and I will bring the question. So. All right, any other questions, comments? No. All right, under old business, item number 9, parking ticket ordinance, first reading.
Yeah, I'm just getting that in front of me here. So members of the council, you have a proposed ordinance change. We presented this to the council at the last meeting. I think also you received an email from me. Hopefully you all got it today. Councilman Bjorstead had suggested maybe a change to the definition of trailer. And I wasn't comfortable making that given the conversations that we already had. I guess the choices that you have is to go forward with the proposed ordinances for a first reading and then deal with any amendments as part of a second reading. That's one option. A second option is we can try to, on the fly tonight, make amendments to the language in the definition. I don't recommend that. I'd rather bring it fully formed to the council. And then the third option is to do nothing tonight, and we can have a conversation about whether we want to, the council wants to propose changes to the definition, and then I can prepare those and we can have the first reading at the next meeting.
One of the things that, as soon as I got that, or woke up and read the email, I had gone online and I put in work trailer, service trailer, and I have almost identical pictures for both when you do a Google search. So I don't know that splitting hairs and putting this off another week or a couple weeks is definitely necessary. Whether it's on an open flatbed or enclosed, you're not going to know what's in it. So if it's work or service, I guess I don't understand. Maybe Councilman Bernstead, if you.
Yeah, so the possible change I brought up was when it was the description of the service trailer, it says trailers being used in performing construction, remodeling, siding, or like services. To me, that's essentially only looking at trailers that are being used for home remodel, home building. There could be many other forms of businesses that are operating that might be park a trailer on the street. So like my example is with our business, we have some flat deck trailers that we haul pallets of seed and newer control crops around. And typically in the winter months, I wouldn't have a need for it because we might be busy at that time, but there may come a time that I need to park my flat deck trailer on the street. But to me, that flat deck trailer not being used for construction, remodeling, siding, or services would technically go against this order.
But it also says that includes trailers being used to transport tools, supplies, or materials necessary to perform
Those
or
things
like
are-
services.
But like my business, that has nothing to do with remodeling, siding, services, construction. And like I said, like for me, it typically wouldn't become an issue because I probably wouldn't need to, but I'm just thinking that if that would be a possibility for me, it's very possible it might be the case for somebody else. That would need to do something like that for me.
There's things in there I saw that I wanted to change or add as well. And Monty mentioned if we email them all of our opinions and then we will make changes to come back for consolidated version. I'm okay with that too. Or if you guys want to talk about it now, tell that.
Listen, I would like to talk about it soon. We can-
Yeah, I think that's the sooner we can move on, the
Yeah,
better.
this has been a couple months already.
What are your suggestions, Councilman Shoemaker?
Well, Councilman Ronstadt, to your note, what if it were to say service trailers performing work on homes or property? So it could be anything to do with the property, any kind of service being done to the property, not just home repair.
Well, that would still be the case of where anything being like, if somebody has to bring supplies from work, park it overnight on the street to go to a job outside city limits, that trailer is not actively being used at that property. So I'm kind of wondering if it should be changed instead of saying performing construction, remodeling, signing like services, that it's just being used in performing business.
But it has the 48 hours up here. And if you're. I mean, would you
But that's only
have that?
for these trailers. Anything beyond that is technically enforcement, no matter how long it's.
So, Madam Mayor, members of the council, one of the, I think, differences that what you're talking about is, as I understand the original purpose during the winter was to get these trailers off the streets, to get basically anything that's not a moving car, moving vehicle off the street was so that it wouldn't impede snow removal or create issues with snow. And then when we talked about this, we talked about two different categories of exceptions to that. One would be service trailers where you have workers coming to your home, you have remodeling happening, something like that, which is a very kind of specific exception. And that's how we drafted the exception and then built in around those service trailers. We built in a system for coming to the city for a permit if longer was needed. I think what you're talking about now isn't the same kind of category. You're talking about a convenience category of allowing trailers to be parked on the street overnight or for some period of time as a convenience to the owner of the trailer and not as in service of the property. Certainly we can redraft the ordinance, but then I guess the question is, does the city want those classifications also to have the ability to come and get a permit to exceed 48 hours? And then if not, we're probably going to need to build in two definitions into the statute. I mean, again, none of that is insurmountable, but it's just, we designed the exception of trailer around the idea of a trailer that is servicing property, not as a convenience for the owner of the property. And that's a policy question for the council to decide, but we probably need to do some restructuring of the proposed ordinance if we're going to create a carve out as a convenience and a carve out for service. Otherwise, I think the city might find itself in a position where work trailers are parked on the street and, you know, there's a request for a permit to have that work trailer be there longer than 48 hours, in which case, if the council wants that exception built in, but it seems to defeat the purpose then, because I don't really understand what the difference is between allowing somebody to park a work trailer on the street as a convenience and allowing them to park a ice fishing house on the street as a convenience. Man, that distinction starts to lose some of the purpose of what we're looking to do.
Attorney Rodney, with this too, it states winter months, which would be November 1st through March 31st only, that this would be appropriated for, correct? For those months, for the winter months. So summer, it's null and void, correct?
Right. This is designed to deal with the ordinance that is specific to winter month restrictions.
Thank you for the clarification on that one. I, as a council member, would be okay with approving this evening the way it is. But that is my set motion. I will make a motion to approve the ordinance number 2025 first reading, right? Is that what we're on, first reading?
That is correct.
I would like to make a motion to approve the ordinance number 2025 for the first reading.
We have the first by Councilwoman Davis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Councilman Shoemaker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, the other council or roll call please.
Bertarbia? No. Landis?
Yes.
Aaronson?
Yes.
And Davis.
Yes, and council, mayor, auditor, attorney, this is the first reading. If we need changes or if there's something that we would like to add, we still have that option, correct? Attorney?
That's correct. So as part of the second reading, the council does have the ability to make amendments to the proposed ordinances and then vote on whether to approve the amendments and then vote on the second reading.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, attorney. Next, we'll carry on under new business, Rivera Insurance. Please introduce yourself and welcome.
Mayor Berglund and Council, my name is Scott Federish. I'm with Rivera Insurance in Bismarck here. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to get a chance to come and meet you guys. Over the last probably 6 months or so, I visited a number of times with Tanya and visiting about the city's insurance and their upcoming renewal, which will take place in March here, and was asked to provide a proposal, and that's what you guys have in front of you there. And then more recently this week, just to ask if I would be willing to swing by and introduce myself, give you a little background, and I'll also allow for any opportunities for questions that you might have on what I prepared. A little background on myself, I've worked in insurance for nearly 15 years. Prior to becoming a licensed agent, I actually worked specifically with risk services for North Dakota political subdivisions, cities, counties, and school districts. both on the claim side, general liability, property claims, but also underwriting, really curating policies and products to make sure that it fits for that particular member. I wanted to, in the process of going through building out this proposal, what I did is after receiving a copy of the city's current policies, I really dove through each line of coverage and was able to find some really great opportunities to possibly improve some coverages in some areas, and actually some opportunities where we actually have the ability to reduce some premium if desired. So a lot of good stuff to talk about, and certainly as we go through here, by all means, feel free to shoot away any questions if you guys have looked through this at all. One thing I wanted to point out is you're currently insured or have your services through the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund. I'm not suggesting in any way that I would change that. Quite honestly, the reserve fund was created for North Dakota political subdivisions, and at this time are still definitely the place best suited for that. I say that, but I also have always said too that NDRF's policies and coverages aren't just a blanket or a boilerplate coverage. There really is a lot of ability to tailor-make those to each individual member's liking, and no different here with some of the things that we can talk about on the proposal. In addition to that, as far as the agency's involvement, the NDRF allows each of their members to select their agents of record and really be that partner in making sure that the risk services are provided for cities, counties, and school districts. The agent truly has no direct impact on like the rating or the pricing for the city in this case. That's determined, of course, by the exposures in front of them and as well as the performance. However, where an agent can make a really big impact is a couple of things. First of all, service, of course, availability to come and in situations like this, if there are matters that involve insurance or potentially involving liabilities or lawsuits, having some insight and service being able to be there in those instances. And then also, of course, just knowledge and expertise. And that's, again, somewhere where this is an area that I'm very comfortable with. I've worked for a long time with more political subdivisions, and ultimately have selected, would love the opportunity to be able to be that partner for the city and help make sure that city's assets are protected and that we're also insuring against, of course, any liability exposures there. So, if anybody had any questions or anything, by all means, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, just again, appreciate the opportunity.
I personally do not have any questions, but I appreciate you coming and sharing your information with us for sure. It's always nice to see who is out there and what they offer.
One of the questions I had is, I think I saw something about the deductibles and the difference with yours versus any other.
No, it would be mine.
Or
The current agencies.
yes.
That, and you're talking, and what I think you're referring to is the auto deductible. So that's for the city's fleet of autos, right? And right now, in looking through your current stuff, is a very low deductibles, which is awesome, right? If you guys had an accident, I believe the count in the collision one's $100, the other is $250. So in the event of an accident, how great is that? That I know for my personal auto, it's a lot of times you'll see 500 or 1,000. So having a low deductible that's fantastic. What it costs. Again, this is it's one of the metrics, just like anywhere else, where it's like, that's great, but let's look at what that's costing us. And so that's what I was providing there is an approximation where we can increase those deductibles still to a very acceptable level of $500 for each. Again, in the whole scheme of things, a very, very acceptable amount. But in doing so, in increasing those deductibles, it actually results in an approximation of probably $1,200 to $1,500 a year. The city's not having any accidents or a limited amount of them. You just run the equation. What does that provide for you at the end of the year? And in this case, looking at your loss performance, I think it's pretty darn good. That's again $1,000 or whatever it might be a year that can either be reallocated elsewhere. There's a lot of examples like that can be really impact.
Those little adjustments saves the city taxpayers.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things where, again, from a service or an expertise standpoint, it's not just continuing, well, this is how it was done in the past, so this is how we're gonna continue to do it. It's why not take a look on an annual basis and say, hey, let's take a look at those and evaluate. And again, ultimately, it's up to the council's decision on what they would like to do. My job as the agent would at a minimum just be able to inform you and bring that to the table so you guys can make the decision that you want.
And so our two options, and just as far as that, would be either the $500 or $1,000 deductible cost of the contribution.
And there are other options outside of that. Those I think would be probably some of the common ones, and I just wanted to provide that is, I've maybe notated there that that's kind of an example that I would give using similar situations.
Conceptual examples.
Yeah.
They were great options, that's for sure. It's a good option to make.
Another one I'll just mention too from, and again, I don't have the ability to know this at this time, but on the general liability side, for example, as well. It looks like you guys have done some great stuff over the last couple of years in increasing your limited liability and understanding the reason why that's important for a city, especially one that has a law enforcement exposure is really important. And so I see that you've done that. One thing I pointed out on the general liability side, I'm unaware of whether or not you guys have, it's called the One State, One Cybersecurity Initiative that was kind of lifted off the ground a couple of years ago. And it's a free service to cities, counties, and school districts. And basically what they're asking you to do is to participate in having some protocols in place to prevent cyber-related losses. Again, it costs nothing. You guys actually probably already have them in place. But in doing so, in ensuring that you have those in place, the North Dakota IT department will sign off and send a letter to the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund and say, the city of Lincoln is compliant in those, and in doing so, NDF is going to turn around and give you a 4% discount on your liability. With your guys' current contribution for that, that's again nearly $1,000, and just to have those in place. So those are the types of things where, again, I just want to make sure that we're aware of those, and there's certainly opportunities. And I'll shift gears on the other side too. One thing I noticed again going through this today was on the property side, just making sure that we're not, and we're looking at certain things. One thing that jumped out to me is equipment breakdown coverage. It's a very common and important coverage for many businesses on the commercial side, but also specifically for municipalities. Right now, what I'm looking at, unless there could be something in addition to what I'm aware of, I didn't see that with the fire and tornado fund. The box was actually, it was left empty. It was not checked to show that coverage is in place. Yeah, that's just part of the review that I've provided and just noticed. So, something that certainly is carried by a great majority of political subdivisions, and rightfully so. Not a big cost one, but it's just it recognizes it's offered through the fire and tornado fund, which is where your property is right now. So it simply would just be like easy to get that way.
And just so you know, the fire or the tornado fund, that policy only comes up in July. So that's insured until July, or the current policy is good until July 1st.
So the insurance, if we went with Rivera, just conversation sake, it would still be North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund.
Yes.
But it would be through the provider being Rivera.
As your agent of record. Yep. So that exactly the product you might think of it from a personal line standpoint for you guys personally. You could have insurance through a North Star Mutual or a number of different companies, but your own insurance agents might be somebody locally here through Rivera Insurance or Star. That is your agent who's, again, I kind of call it your partner, your advocate on the insurance side. But again, the product itself, that's the insurance, the policy, the contract. That's with the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund. And again, that's my suggestion with that to be for that trade.
Sure.
I had one question I didn't ask you prior, do you do the notary bonding and those items also? Do you know that?
So if what I think you're maybe referring to is the North Dakota bonding fund, that's for the positions within, say, the city that need to be bonded to ensure for embezzlement type claims.
So I'm talking about, okay, so I'm a notary.
Okay.
So we have to also have bonds for us that if we notarize something and possibly get in trouble, do you bond those? Do you know that?
We've certainly got access to we do all sorts of bonding. But I wanted to point out specifically that with political subdivisions, oftentimes they participate in the bond.
Yes,
fund.
we have that for auditors.
Exactly, yep, and that's what that's there for. They do not utilize, the bonding fund, is administered by the North Dakota Insurance Fund. They do not utilize agents. However, I'm really familiar with how that process is handled. It's a 2-year term that just needs to be updated and city reports every year to make sure that coverage is in place for the city's behalf in the event of something like that happens. So certainly could assist, but they typically don't utilize an agent.
And you typically meet with your customers annually to go over the policies?
I think at a minimum, my standard would be months in advance of the renewal would be the appropriate time for us to sit down and kind of have an overview to make sure that in the period of time, of course, I'm hoping that I'm going to be seeing you guys a whole lot more than just once a year, not if you come and pick up a check. If there's things that come up, again, being that partner that's here to be able to pick up the phone and answer any questions, offer some insight, whether that could be claims related, again, understanding the policy, the century code language, and how that pertains directly to North Dakota municipalities. But on an annual basis, at a minimum, I think months in advance of the actual renewal is when you sit down and say, hey, have we incurred any changes in exposures? Have we purchased any new equipment? Things that we want to make sure that we're staying on top of, or vice versa. Maybe things have changed and we've shed things. Maybe we no longer have certain entities operating under the city that we used to. Economic development, things like that. Kind of doing a reflection period ahead of the renewal every single year, and then also once it renews, coming back and making sure that we're on the same page so you guys understand what coverages you have in place. Then, as Tanya pointed out, which is exactly right. Right now, your general liability, inland marine coverage, which is your mobile equipment, and your autos, they all renew on March 7th every year for an annual term with the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund. Your property is through the Fire and Tornado Fund, and that is a common renewal date for all participants in the state of 7 months. Okay, so that one piece kind of sits off on its own. And the reason I bring that up is because just like I'm talking about having this annual review ahead of time for the renewal, that applies the same way for the property. Again, ahead of that July 1st, we want to sit down and make sure, okay, property values have changed a whole bunch over the last handful of years. Are we making sure that we're staying on top of those and we have adequate coverage in the event of a loss so that we're not stuck in a position where we're underinsured?
Questions?
Under the commercial inland marine, your further considerations replacement costs. It says coverage B equipment will continue to be written under the national cash value basis. Coverages A, C, and D are written on the replacement cost basis. These coverages A, B, C, and D, what is that in reference to?
Sure. Thanks for asking. So again, that's going to be commercial inland marine policy. Commercial inland marine coverage pertains to a lot of times mobile equipment. For you guys, that could be heavy equipment, things like skid steers, motor graders, things like that, not autos. But things that don't
works.
Yeah, it could be, absolutely. But it also can be plow attachments, things like that. Things that aren't always in one place. It's mobile equipment, it can be in multiple places throughout the year. Right now, you guys have set up for all of your equipment, it operates on a schedule. Okay, so if you imagine you have a list of every single item that you guys have on that policy, I think there's about $1.2 million of equipment. every individual item must be on that schedule. If you guys were to say change on a V-file or something like that, because it was a 2012 and it's time for anyone. If we don't get that updated on this list with the exact serial number and we have a loss, there is no coverage unless it is specifically on that list with its serial number. An alternative is this blanket option, which is what I've kind of brought up here. There's a lot of advantages to that. What you're doing with the blanket option is you are removing that necessary schedule or that list that it has to be on there. And you're replacing that by having adequate limits for each category of coverage. In doing so, it's going to eliminate that need to make sure that you have to submit every single change order that comes in. If the public works changes something, it could be something valued at $3,000, it could be $35,000. If that's not reported to NDRF and updated, there's no coverage. On the blanket side, it's going to fill in those gaps where we're going to eliminate that in schedule and instead just make sure that we just have to have an adequate amount of insurance for those different categories. And if we do that, there is no requirement to have that listed. So instead of having a constant reporting of every individual item during that annual meeting that we talk about having every year, we sit down and that's one of the things on our list and say, hey, coverage fee, we had $254,000 last year. Are there any pieces of equipment that we purchased that we want to make sure to increase that limit or lower that limit? It's addressing it that way. And in addition, there's some other benefits where you have better coverages as well. Like you were bringing up the replacement cost versus actual cash value or appreciated value.
We still have to keep track of it.
Yeah.
Both options, the blanket and the schedule, both are 80% co-insurance.
Yes, yep, that's right.
Other questions?
Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank you, Scott.
So do we want to make any decisions on this tonight? Are you looking for a motion?
I would be looking for a motion to change from Kramer Agency to Preferred Insurance.
Council members, I thought that I remembered us discussing the possibility of shopping a little bit. That's still what you want to do.
I just asked at the last council meeting if I had permission to get a quote from Rivera. And with his expertise and where he's been and where he's come from, if that was okay if I did that. I just asked for him specifically.
And then I believe that the discussion in the council was that we thought it might be a good idea for us to do a little bit of comparison, if I'm not mistaken.
That does sound effective. I'd say in that regard would not be the best option for us. I'm just always fan of having the information in front of us to make sure that that's and I know they're on a bit of a deadline expiring. Do you feel do you have much more information from any other providers at this time?
I can call them. That's the I just have to have permission to release our information to them. I will tell you that the only time I talk to Kramer Agency is at renewal. He doesn't call any other time. He doesn't. I'm not pleased with Kramer Agency.
Okay.
I agree that it's always good to have at least two quotes. I will say that, you know, my personal business historically, we had a $2 million policy and this total premiums of $36,000 for a $4 million, almost $5 million policy is in line. It's not out of market.
And I would just like to point out that the policy ends March 6th, which means we have the next council meeting where we would have to make a decision.
council auditor, I think that would be enough time, to get another quote, just so that we can weigh our options and go from there. And again, being informed makes us, better voters for our citizens, so. If that is possible, auditor, Wilson, it's greatly appreciated.
All right, so we will bring this back at the January or February 20th. And if you would bring the packets from Rivera back, then at that date, so we can compare to whatever information brought to us at that time.
Scott, I want to say thank you.
I'm trying.
All right, we'll carry on to item 11, and that would be the EDC update.
I am part of Lincoln Economic Development Committee. I was asked to come up here and talk about our work plan for 2025. I believe you have one in front of you. Just to talk about what we plan to do, I'm going to do just a brief overview, and then if you guys have questions, feel free to shoot at me. So our first order of business is to acquire a housing study. This is to evaluate the unmet housing needs in Lincoln and distribute to the developers. Our second one is going to be to survey the community, so a community study. This is to find trends and identify untapped opportunities within the city. Our third one is acquire business content to improve public outreach through the city newsletter. Easy questionnaire to all businesses in the city of Lincoln. Send it out with the city newsletter. Just lets the residents know what's out there and what they provide. We're, as needed, work with property and business owners and developers to captivate new investments. That is year-round all the time. And then oversee Lincoln events, which is the Lincoln Days, and then any other events that come up to us to handle or assist. Back to the housing study, we're looking at a 4-month estimated duration before it gets done. That is actually a grant we have received through the North Dakota Commerce and Rural Workforce Housing Grant. That is actually done June 30th of 2025. So that gives us the 4 months to get it completed. And we are working with the next group to do that for us. And that is the same group that has done Bismarck, Canada and Chambers housing study last year. And then, yep, the survey of the community, or the community survey, that we are actually going to try and run through University of Mary and their marketing department. We're going to build it into their curriculum and then run it. And we're hoping to have that by the end of the year. Any questions as to our work plan?
Don't have any questions.
EDC, would they potentially have any working deals with like the school and the events that the school puts on? Or would that be completely separate?
In what terms? Like with the school about like dances? Like
I mean, there's a right, like the PTO but there's outside events too that they do, I know with fire and stuff, but I wasn't sure if EDC got involved with anything like that. I think they're separate, correct?
Yes, and we'd like to keep EDC separate from Lincoln events, but Lincoln events would definitely help with those. Yeah, it's reached out to.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you. I don't have any questions.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
I must say, I think this is wonderful. You have your budget listed as 0.
Yeah.
No expenses.
No expenses. Yeah.
Thank you. Next, we have portfolios. So Councilwoman Davis.
So for the office, we do have a new hire. So with the new hire, training has been happening and getting acclimated with another staff member in the office. Other than that, there has been no changes.
All right, Councilwoman Arcadia.
Chief, are you interested in coming up to read anything from your department?
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'll start out with the annual call summary. 2025 year to date, we've had 53 calls for service. All of those calls have been to the city of Lincoln. Monthly run summary, again, of course, with 12 calls. For the month of January, and 11 of the 12 were emergent responses. They break down 0 fire, and we just had 12 rescue EMS calls, no other any type of instance for the month. This month, average response time was 7 minutes and 50 seconds to the city. In Department News, and you've seen some great progress with their station up north. We're still working on selling our current station through an online auction service. The auction is going to be held on the 26th, and anybody that is interested, they can do it with the auction website, and you have a product flyer with me that I'll give to Tanya and stuff like that, and then we can hang it up out there for anybody that's interested in stuff. It's Thompson's online auction. And if there's anybody interested, they can actually go up and take a look at the building. We continue to train our new part-time firefighters. They're progressing well through our probationary academy. The next step will be for them to go through firefighter 1 training that's scheduled to start the weekend of March 14th. The department continues to work on our employee handbook review and reviewing SOGs as well. We continue to be involved. I continue to be involved and watch what's going on in the current legislative session. Is there a few bills that will affect the fire service? One major one that people are watching is property tax. Those and what is going to happen with them and how that is going to affect local governments across the state, possibly. Last week, I had the opportunity to participate in a national press conference with Senator Kramer from North Dakota and Senator Klobuchar from Minnesota. The press conference was related to a bill that they're trying to get passed that allows cancer to be added to when a firefighter has a serious injury or death due to cancer. There is a possibility, if this bill passes, to have federal benefits open to these open to firefighters that experience this stuff. So it's good legislation. It was the first time, pretty nerve-wracking. It was the first time that I got to speak on a national level, but I was pretty humbled and honored to be able to do that. Department training, January, we completed our SCBA confidence training. This allowed personnel to practice skills and become more proficient with their SCBAs. And it allows them to work through scenarios to make sure that they are comfortable when they are working in these environments up to no visibility, most of the time with no visibility. February, we plan on completing our annual EMR refresher for medicals. Additional training, our probationary firefighters have been training once a week on Mondays as part of their 15-week in-house training program. And members of the department attended a pipeline training on 128 for additional training. PR events we attended, we did a fire extinguisher demo at the Burleigh County Shop for all of the highway department workers on the 23rd and 24th of January. We did a station tour for some kids on 125, and then we UND School of Medicine had a bunch of representatives that came on. We did a water rescue presentation to some doctors out there, just so they kind of knew what we did and stuff like that, and how when people come into DR, what is kind of done out in the field and those type of things. Planning and zoning, and did not attend the January planning and zoning meeting. It was canceled. So, and then fire prevention safety tips. Just make sure Again, be careful when running vehicles in the garage, leaking carbon monoxide into your home, and then make sure you check your furnace filters so they are clean. This allows the furnace to work properly and does not cause further issues where we might have to follow.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
So the Lincoln Police Department, this is from Chief Giddings. He wants to report that Officer Schneider has graduated from field training on the 13th of February, on the 13th of February. Officer awards and commendations. The night is on February 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. And he'd like to invite us all here from City Council and all from the City of Lincoln to be in attendance. Officers will receive years of service recognition, awards, and oaths. They also have 2 candidates that have been moved through the interview process, and interviews are moving forward. They're hoping to be able to make an offer within the next 2 weeks there. If you are able to attend, once again, this invitation for the Lincoln Police Department event is February 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. Its location is right here in this room. And it'll be a special evening to bring together friends, family, and colleagues to celebrate exceptional accomplishments of our officers. And certainly I would encourage all of us to try to come and make it and to encourage our officers for all that they've done for our community. We want to be sure to recognize them and thank them for their service. So these are located on the table if you'd like to take one, or you can see me or Chief Giddings if you'd like further information. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councilman Hurlstad.
Oh, there's been some snowfall in our last meeting, and Public Works has done a good job keeping our streets clear. I feel like they've been very efficient and on the ball, and going back and curb lines, and sanding the intersections. So I've been very happy with how they've been keeping the roads open and safe for travel. Beyond that, just some maintenance in the shop.
Great, thank you. Councilman Shoemaker.
Well, yesterday's pre-board meeting was canceled, so I've yet to make one of those, but I am looking forward to it. And attended the EDC meeting. It was a great meeting. That's a really great committee. And I will be the liaison for the EDC and the tree boards. I mostly correct.
Great, we'll be going through.
Okay. And with the EDC, I'll be working with them, with you, Mary, to help market the city of Lincoln, generate a logo, and do anything we can to do our city and make it public and advertise it.
Awesome, thank you. Under my portfolio, I would like to just remind everyone that we will be having a comprehensive plan review beginning this Saturday, 1 p.m. Anyone in the community is invited to attend and participate in the discussions. Now, this will not be a council meeting and no quorum is anticipated. So again, this is community-based. Lincoln School has a dance on Friday, tomorrow, tomorrow, yes, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. and it's country theme.
My child is very excited.
I am going to be there. I have some cowboy boots and everything on. I'm going to be very excited to be there. So, the portfolio change. Oh, just a real quick, I did finally hear back from Bismarck UPS or Postal Service, the USPS, and I'm going to be talking with her a little bit tomorrow to kind of give us an idea of where we are with our independence code request. Tomorrow, I am, yes. I don't know what the process is going to be. I did look at our 7th Cavalry, Custer's 7th Cavalry list for street names. That is how Lincoln has an ordinance that the street names will be looked at. I don't know if it is a matter of coming to council for those street names, if it's a Public Works, if it's a developer, so I'm gonna dig a little bit more into that. I thought, wow, we might have to go into the numbers and if we're running out of names, but it is an ordinance, so if that's something that we decide that's something to take a look at, that might be an option too. So we can just start thinking about some of that. And we had talked about going over some of the preliminary functions of our portfolios. So what I did is hand out to you just a little more to get the conversation going, not that these are how the portfolios are pulled. Attached to it, then you're also going to see the rotation that is, you know, as far as year 1, 2, 3, and 4, I handed it out. Okay, so on that first page is just, again, it's not supposed to be done, it's just giving ideas of some of the things that other cities have done and put within their portfolios. Some are going to be in the wrong spot, but it's just to start the discussion. Currently, on that second side is the assignment currently. Now, as I was reading this just a little bit today, I did notice that 2 things. Fire really isn't under city control or anything like that. They are their independent entity. So I don't know that we really should have fire listed. Certainly it's not Burley County Rural Fire. And that's Bismarck Rural Fire, so that would have to be a change. I think it's great for public safety, but what do y'all think about that as far as removing fire itself? Because we don't control any aspect of the fire department.
You may. Council, Mayor, it does make sense since we're City of Lincoln and that is considered technically rural Bismarck.
We certainly appreciate Chief Fire coming out here and providing information to us, but just as far as administratively removing that.
Would it be appropriate to have it noted that the public safety portfolio holder would be one of the liaison with?
Right, and here it does, it has, I'm sorry, I figured. But it does, it has liaison with, but we'll just have to change that to this part.
Sure, yeah.
There, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so first question then is, has everybody had an opportunity to put information together? Sorry, I'm twirling here trying to get.
Definitely have start.
Okay.
Kind of like how we had talked in previous meeting, I feel like it might be kind of tough to get some much specifics with it, just because I feel like it's a very fluid position. But yeah, I just kind of made a few bullet points for some of the things that people don't portfolio over the public works department.
Okay, so can we start with public works then?
Like, sure.
Okay.
So basically, I just have a sheet here that I listed duties of the portfolio holder of the public works department. And then I have the bullet points listing liaison between the public works department and city council, liaison between the general public and the public works department, sounding board for the public works department director, and then in a sub bullet can offer insight into ideas and concerns brought up by the public works department director and or the public regarding the public works department. And then I also noted attend meetings within the scope of the public works department purview with city engineer and or city engineer. That's what I have.
Okay. What about the budget process? Now, of course, we as council don't control budgets. Yeah, or develop their budget, that's on them. But as far as maybe attending meetings and see where they are.
Yep, I would definitely agree with that. I feel like it's kind of a gray area with how much we do versus how much we want to make sure that the department heads handle. But I would agree that like attending meetings and basically just being informed of what's going on.
And then I would think that that would be the same with PD as well as administration, not to have input necessarily because they know where their bills are. But to be familiar, especially when we're coming up to budget time. So. Thoughts, review. All right, anyone else have?
These are just generalizations, really, that I just kind of draw it. So essentially, I see the public safety portfolio role as being mainly to focus on guidance and community-based initiatives rather than the day-to-day operational management of the public safety services. So I wanted to say that out first. And to be more of an advisory role in providing guidance that the city council would receive public safety matters, including law enforcement, emergency preparedness, community safety programs, and the like. Community engagement to support and promote community efforts and other public safety initiatives, to help develop policy in working with the council members together to develop and to review any public safety policies aligned with the town's needs and resources. Oversight to monitor the performance of public safety services and report to the council on effectiveness. Budget review, which we've already done and discussed. Interagency collaboration to represent the city in relations with other public safety agencies and organizations in the region. Public education to promote awareness in our city of safety issues and emergency preparedness through community events and programs. Meeting attendance, obviously, that would be good. And any other type of meeting attendance that would align with said work. Strategic planning to contribute to the development of long-term public safety strategies for the town. And finally, crisis response to assist in coordinating the town's response to emergencies or public safety incidents. Working with first responders and any other issues.
Anything to add? Rebecca, would you mind, as we go through this, everybody, because Councilman Davis and I are trying to go through and get everything updated, portfolios and for the leadership manual, and that would be good information to put in that as we update the issue the executive incorporated into the actions.
So would you like them to us to email? Some
Sure. I like all of this. It's wonderful. Landis, do you have something?
Yes, I agree with Councilman Ronstadt that I kept it vague as things always change with the specific items. More so year to year, month to month. So for the beautification portfolio, I wrote that it is the duty of this portfolio holder to explore and promote activities that create a prosperous and attractive environment for the city of Lincoln. The holder of this portfolio will also act as the liaison for the Economic Development Committee and Tree Board to the City Council. This position does not grant the council member any authority over EDC or Tree Board. Also to assist the EDC with their annual work plan and report updates and activities of the Tree Board and EDC to the City Council.
Like that.
I see here that also the City Lincoln Parks District as well. Is this for? So that would be, yeah.
Great, and that was one of the things, on that final sheet that, has the rotation that will be in the book. There are the committees that are to have a liaison. And that, kind of leaves you with 3 of the 4. So is this something that we want? I mean, do you feel comfortable with that? Is there a way that council sees, splitting those meetings up? That might make it easier, because you're looking at, 4 meetings.
Basically, you're wondering if we should be spreading them out.
Yes, because you're looking at 4 extra meetings for Councilman Shoemaker. Correct. So,
I think splitting it up would definitely be beneficial, so it's not all on one council member.
I don't know if it'd be appropriate, but as I'm technically kind of a term member of the Board of Adjustments, I don't know if it want for this specific portfolio, but in the meantime, at least I could definitely take on planning and zoning Board of Adjustments.
okay, that's great.
Would that be something we would want to have tied into the public works portfolio, or do you feel
I
that
think
these
that could go.
4 are just gonna kind of float? They aren't necessarily tied to a portfolio, but more so a particular council member.
Maybe for right now, have it floating so we can see where it fits as to what's going on, because planning and zoning seems like it could go to public works because it ties in well with, the work that's going to be done within the city, infrastructure development and whatnot. So I perceive that being a good place for that. But then it also would kind of overlap beautification and public works with that PDC too, because that becomes. So, for right now, we'll put it with public works, because that seems like that would be a good fit.
Okay.
And then tree and park with. And UDC, we'll keep that unless somebody else would like to take one of your.
Madam Mayor, when you mentioned the before meetings, I think we said the Lincoln Park District, the tree board and the EDC.
Right, board of adjustment. City
Oh,
council. And the city
oh,
council,
okay.
city council too, yeah.
Right.
Also, just as an update, excuse me, the tree board, their meetings are Wednesdays, not Tuesdays, so there will be an update that will be coming to council on the 20th. Just to share that update. It is updated online, I believe.
I put it under the tree board part for the dates. I haven't listed it on the calendar yet, but I will.
Okay. So, all right.
I think these additional 3 meetings fit well in your beautification. Personally, I don't mind taking them on.
All right, perfect. Well,
Think about the future, somebody's gonna have this portfolio one of these.
all right. And then again, if you look at Councilman Davis.
Yes, so I did write down a few things for portfolio for office, which I have a moment. Coming in monthly and checking in with staff. I will admit I have not done that as portfolio holder. However, we definitely should have a portfolio holder that does partake in coming into our office and meeting with the staff. So that should be, I think, classified into that portfolio. Reviewing monthly financials and or sign off on financials if they are the president of the board. Going over each meeting, what the office staff has accomplished and worked on during the city council meetings. Reviewing quarterly or yearly reviews of the staff in the office, if need be. being able to listen and communicate with the staff on projects and or questions the citizens may bring up to us that we can relay back to the office staff so it can get work done. And then be involved in having meetings or phone calls with office staff or mayor to review potential projects or Board of leadership code or code of conduct. Good, gravy. Can't talk. That's all I have so far for that.
Okay. One of the questions I would have too, because we haven't talked about that, in some of these that I have pulled online, some of the portfolio holders have been active participants in interview boards. So what is council's thought on that? Would you like to leave that to the department heads?
Madam Mayor, council members, in my experience in being on a panel with hiring, I know the chief specifically with LPD has said that he likes that. So I think that my personal thought and sense is that we offer our availability and just make it known that we're interested and available to help and support however we can if each of us are available and willing. I think it's nice to be able to be involved as long as they feel comfortable and they want to inform us or have us be a part of that at some point in time. I haven't been a part of every hiring of each officer, but I know sometimes they reach out into different departments and it's nice to know that folks are available.
I agree.
But to kind of cross pollinate sometimes.
I know when Director Shoup had been looking at hiring the public works department, he's asked if I'd be available to sit in on some of the interviews. Like it's good that different mindsets might catch different red flags or might find different benefits in particular employee skill sets and it's been good insight.
Bring up other questions that maybe they don't think of.
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to have that part of this leadership code under the portfolios? To be part of, if at all possible, or to leave that discretion up to.
I think add it in, make sure that it's
that
for
you're
sure
afforded
possibility.
that opportunity.
Yep.
Okay. And I think that's a very good start. I can compile all of this and maybe just forward it for information, giving an opportunity after I compile it to make any changes. Or if you think about anything else, ultimately what my goal is to have, if just a small folder that you can, with some extra paper in there, a couple, slides that you can put information in common questions that you're going to get from the community when they contact you regarding your portfolio. Have it a repository so the person that comes after you, and we can put that down in a way that could be transferred to the person that comes behind you. So, all right, thank you very much for your hard work in getting that done. Auditor?
I have a couple things. The first thing is the state audit for 23, 22 and 23. I heard from Katie today. It's going through the process and they are hoping to have it done by the end of February. So she will keep in touch with me about that. I'm working on the December statement and getting things into the abandoned system. And on that statement, we did get some CURDOC funds or municipal infrastructure funds in the amount of $500,000. I don't have it in the system yet, but I will get it as I'm going through the statement. I I did have a question for the engineers tonight, and since they couldn't make it, please bring your packets, so I don't have to reprint them out again on the 20th. Cause I'm sure that nothing will have changed. The other thing I did send an email to both Greg and Nick, wondering about the BRIC grant for the sewer regionalization because of the president freezing all grant monies and funds at this time. Greg did get back to me and he said he didn't think so, but he was hoping to set up a meeting with them next week sometime and find out more. I gave you guys each a new binder. If you want it, great. If not, you can leave it, but on the top of your binders, I did put the Office of Attorney General Open Records Guide. We're having a lot of issues in the office of requests for just information, and it's really not a request for records. There is a difference, so if you guys can kind of just read through this. So when the people ask you out in public, a public entity does not have to respond to questions about its decisions, duties, functions, or operations, or to explain the contents of its records, because that's just information. If they actually want a request for a record, it needs to be specified. And then make sure that you're sending them to the city office and not taking it up on yourselves to answer those or be doing those kinds of record requests. Very important. I don't care if you talk to them, I don't care what, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that they actually need an actual request and it's just not information, please send it to the city of Lincoln office.
And is that because of open records?
It has a lot to do with the open records request. So when we had gone to the meeting, this is just some really good information. And on the back side of it, it has a lot of the where you can find those items, the North Dakota codes and all that. So I would ask that each one of you just take a look at that. Okay, other than that, it's just business as usual. Hopefully Tammy and I can get a little bit of a reprieve from it just always being the two of us lately, so that's that. All I have.
All right, any other business for council? And we stand adjourned at 7:26.